takes profound art and profound insight into nature to turn out stuff like Pickman's. Any magazine cover hack can splash paint around wildly and call it a nightmare, or a witch's Sabbath, or a portrait of the devil, but only a great painter can make such a thing really scare or ring true. That's because only a real artist knows the actual anatomy of the terrible, or the physiology of fear, the exact sort of lines and proportions that connect up with latent instincts or hereditary memories of fright, and the proper color contrasts and lighting effects to stir the dormant sense of strangeness. I don't have to tell you why a fusilli really brings a shiver, while a cheap ghost story frontispiece really merely makes us laugh. There's something those fellows catch beyond life, that they're able to make us catch for a second. Doré had it, Syme has it, Angarola of Chicago has it, and Pickman had it as no man ever had it before, or, I hope to heaven, ever will again. And that is a paragraph from our news story that we are going to be talking about today. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the next exciting episode of the Carr-Quest of H.P. Lovecraft. Today we are going to be covering Pickman's model. So Pickman's model is kind of interesting because it tells the story of this guy, this painter, as you heard in the intro, named Richard Upton Pickman, and how his paintings are maybe a little more lifelike than many perceive it to be. There may be something more going on with the sort of ghoulish models he's using. So it's narrated by a friend. Sorry, I moved the mic. It's narrated by his friend Thurber. That's another thing. Lovecraft has very interesting names for his characters, and he's telling this other person, Elliot. I'm not quite sure. I'm guessing Elliot's like a relative of some sort, and he's again just telling him about how Pickman was just. His work was beyond our human comprehension in certain ways. So, how do I go into Pickman's model? Well, I actually read it as of recording it now, which I think is when this episode comes out, Saturday. I think I tried reading it yesterday, but I wasn't really in a Lovecraft kind of mood, so I read it again. And it's good. It's once more, I can see why it's in the best of H.P. Lovecraft, but it's not my favorite Lovecraft story. It has a slow start. It sort of gradually sort of introduces Pickman and why Thurber dropped Pickman, and it wasn't that like other people were shocked by his. It wasn't the same reason that every other person dropped him. Because they were shocked by his hellish art, but it was more what he found in the twisted studio he works at that got him to drop him. Spoilers. Well, spoilers. I'm not gonna actually say what it is, although maybe later I might. But anyway, but. Yeah, so this is a decent story. It's not. I do like the idea of haunted art, like a haunted painting, or like a haunted, but it's not haunted. It's more that it's almost kind of like, almost a bit too true to life, but in a really like twisted way, and the way that the narrator who wasn't Horror Babble, but link in the description if you want to hear the audio that I read for it. Of course, you can look it up also online, but just the way that the guy, that the narrator really sort of emphasized the details of Pickman's models, as it were. It was really creepy, like the way he did it, and there were like sound effects, and the final scene of it is really creepy, and I found the descriptions again of the models really creepy. But it's not a bad story by any means. It's just, I don't know, I'm not quite sure. I think, because this is tied, I guess I can sort of give my consensus on it, if I haven't already. It's a good story. If I were to put it on a tier list, low A, but maybe B. I would probably rank it somewhere, again, low A, or B tier. But it is a good story, and I do think it is worth reading. Especially since, Lovecraft, this character, Richard Upton Pickman, appears later on in Lovecraft stories, specifically the dream cycle over there. He appears in that later. So we'll meet Richard Pickman again. And another thing also that's established in this that we'll come across later, in the last episode, The Outsider, I mentioned that it referenced ghouls, but it wasn't the same kind of ghouls that are mentioned in this. These ghouls are much more disturbing. These ghouls are much more, they're creepy. I don't want to give too much away, if you haven't read the story. But they're very, like, the way that Lovecraft describes it, and again how he describes the paintings of them, it's very creepy and it's very unsettling. Again, especially if you listen to the certain narrator that I used when listening and reading along to the story. So Pickman's model, it's a good story. Pickman, we'll meet Pickman again. Pickman's not gone. And ghouls, and we'll also meet the ghouls, I think specifically Pickman's ghouls in the dream cycle as well, somewhere along the line. So, yeah. I apologize if this episode comes off a little bit short. I kind of made this episode on a bit of a short notice. I do like the story. I think, once more, that it is a very good story, that it's a very creepy story. I do feel like, much kind of like Picture in the House. It does kind of feel well, it's weird. It feels both detailed and not detailed. So it's kind of a weird reverse of Picture in the House, where Picture in the House, I think, was really creepy, but I think that the resolution was really kind of rushed at the end, and I kind of had to look up what it was all about in the first place. But Pickman's model it's kind of weird, because it starts off really slow, and then the structure of it it's alright. It's a bit odd, but I think it's alright. I think that's it. I think that's what kind of made me stop the story when I first tried reading it. I think was kind of the odd pacing. And also, just a short note, the story isn't written like a lot of other Lovecraft novels, short stories, because Lovecraft writes in sort of a first person, but here it feels like kind of like a monologue, It feels very much sort of like someone regaling it to you, like directly, not like a journal entry or a scientific diary or something like that. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like you're having a conversation with someone. So yeah, just as a note of that. So yeah, And so that was Pickman's model. I do recommend it. Again, it's not my favorite Lovecraft story, but I think that it is a good and pretty creepy one. Pretty good and pretty creepy, I should say. And the next story we'll be checking out is In the Vault. So we'll see what In the Vault's all about next Saturday. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, I have been your host, Andrew Carr. This has been the Carr-Quest of H.P. Lovecraft. This has been my trauma shirt. And I will see y'all later in the next episode. See ya.